The key to life is just to find out who you are, and if you're kinky, that's just how you're meant to be. We found a place on the Rev Mel Show where we can all be one perverted family.
That is a huge pet peeve of yours.
It is.
That's why it was one of my first questions. I could not wait to ask you that.
Now, I had been sexual with myself since I was a little girl. Mm-hmm. So I have a very, very fun relationship. Me and my hoo-hoo, we got along just fine.
So you masturbated?
Oh, yeah, totally. Mm-hmm. I figured that out pretty early.
Yeah. Your hoo-hoo?
My hoo-hoo. Yeah. That's actually my pal Kumi's favorite saying. So my girl, as I like to, in my classes, I tell the ladies that, you know what? Men and women, your lovers come and go, but your girl's with you all your life. So you got to treat her well, right? So,
but they say that babies in the womb masturbate.
Yeah, not much to do there.
Yeah, there's not much to do there, but just there and play with your little clitty or your little cocky.
Yeah. So not much to do. So I can totally understand that. So first time I claimed my sexuality. Oh, this was fun. I was very much of a late bloomer, or I guess nowadays. I was happy with my own sexuality with myself, and in high school I pretty much decided that high school boys are stupid. And now that I'm in my 40s, high school boys are stupid. Yeah.
Even some 20-year-olds are stupid.
Yeah. And for the grown men out there, think back to when you were teenagers. You were stupid. Some of the best lovers today, beautiful men, when you were a teenager, you were stupid. So I decided that boys were stupid, and being a good Japanese American immigrant chick, I studied. But I listened. I listened to all my sexually active friends as we would sit around in the cafeteria every Monday morning, and I was like the quiet nerd foreign chick that would sit there and listen to all my classmates being all like talking about the wild things they did. Wide-eyed, listening. Fascinated. And because I was coming from another culture, I had this insulation that whatever the local kids were doing was a cultural curiosity. So I didn't so much experience the peer pressure, and I was fascinated like a Martian landed on Earth. And so I'm listening.
It had to be such a different perspective.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. And I think it saved me from a lot of teenage angst. Because what they were going through didn't have to apply to me. Hindsight, much relief. Yeah. They baffled me, puzzled me. I couldn't understand a lot of what was going on.
Was it the language barrier, or was it just the actions of what they were doing?
Cultural context, social expectation. I didn't grow up with a lot of the expectations, signals, messages. Prom. I mean, the only context I had were like the balls that I would read about in fairy tales. Yeah. That was like the only thing I could understand what a prom was.
Did you go to the prom?
I did. Yeah, I had a good time. It was all about finding the right outfit. So, yeah. It's contacted a personal shopper at Nordstrom's.
Yeah, it's all about the image at that moment. It's really not about what's really happening in your life. It's almost like a thing of passage to go to your prom, to go to your first formal dance, and also your virginity is also a place of passage. Into adulthood.
Yeah.
So how old were you?
I was 18, and get this, okay, I was, remember high school boys are stupid? I was dating a gentleman about 5 years older, much to the scandal of my family. And very romantic, passionate, rather old-fashioned courtship, and I was reveling in courtship. I really liked that aspect of it. A lot of Jane Austen.
Yeah.
A lot of Jane Austen.
You were very fortunate.
Yeah, very fortunate. On top of that, I had the one night that I had an alibi. You know, the senior night out? Okay. Yeah. Now, I've never told this story on video. I've told this to a writer, so this is a first, okay?
So if her mother's listening, close your ears.
So the senior night alibi, my mom had come over from Japan for the graduation, but I had the alibi, and I had lined up my girlfriends. I didn't have a car. I had lined up my girlfriends with a car, arranged things with them. I had casually told my older boyfriend, oh, that night I'll be staying over. You don't mind, do you? Completely just kind of casually tossed out. All totally cool. And he's like, oh, sure, no problem. And of course, he's like inside doing the happy dance.
No, just.
And then, okay, now I announced this about month in advance, 2 months in advance, that I would be staying over that night. Because until then, I had, curfew. I couldn't stay out all night at a boy's house. And
Your mother was living in Japan, and who were you living with here?
Oh, family friends that I stayed with.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So.
I had been living with my grandmother, but she passed away. And to finish my schooling, I moved in with family friends.
Well, that's a lot of adjustments for a youngster to go through, moving from Japan to the United States to the grandmother, and then having the grandmother passed away, and then to staying at family friends. It's had to be a really difficult process.
That's all I knew, though, and they were good people, and I was focused and nerdy and focused on studies. So I set up the date. I set up my transportation. I set up my alibi, and then I go to Planned Parenthood. Okay, I am not sexually active with other people yet. Okay, sure, making out and all that, but and I went to Planned Parenthood, got the whole scoop, and had double method of birth control. I was on the pill, and I did something else for, I think this was when HIV was starting, but it really hadn't seeped into the minds of kids yet.
Yes.
Okay? So I did have double method of birth control, mostly concerned about, getting knocked up. So before I'm sexually active with another person, I'm already on 2 methods of birth control, the pill and something else, something I had to do like right beforehand. Might have been the sponge. Do you remember that?
I remember the sponge.
Yeah, they don't make it anymore.
Yeah, I remember the sponge.
So I'm all ready. And then
it had a little bit of chemicals spermicide in it.
I went lingerie shopping. And I wanted fishnet stockings, but back then couldn't find them at the store, so I bought fishnet tights and made my own. So I made the whole lingerie, and then every day I started sending this little letter, perfumed note with something seductive, a little imagery cut from a commercial or an ad or some seductive note. Every day I sent a little note.
This is coming from an 18-year-old. You're really planning that transformation into womanhood.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And I got it in my head that I was staging this whole thing. Well, one, I was getting away with, getting away with something that the adults didn't know, which was exciting. But there was something also dramatic and romantic, and there was something of dangerous liaisons.
But it was also controlling that very private moment.
Yeah.
Where a lot of people don't have that ability. Sometimes you have sex in the moment. Sometimes, as we talked about, you're raped, or you're molested in some way, and you're fine tuning it. This is impressive.
I seduced him by mail, by post, for a month. We lived in the same town. I sent him a letter every day.
Wow.
And then the night that I showed up, and my friend dropped me off, with a wink and a nudge, and the promise was that I would tell them everything. That was the exchange. That for the services of giving me transportation.
So you're going to kiss and tell.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, totally. And that they would be present the next day when I met up with my mom and then fill me in on all the things I needed to know so I can talk about being at the senior night party. Right? And and then I showed up in like dumpy jeans and an old sweatshirt, and he looked a little disappointed. Then I stepped into the bathroom and started tossing clothing out. So all he saw was clothing being tossed out of the bathroom.
So you've been intimate with him, but not
Making out.
You've been making out, petting,
Yeah,
and all the
yeah,
little
yeah,
things that
yeah.
you do, rubbing the hoo-hoo,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, and passionate and heated, yet chaste in a way that was exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the pursuit, the pleasure, the longing, the romance, the grand romance. It really did seem like something out of French literature.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it was something that would be written in some novel. Yeah, and
I think every woman should do this.
at a fantastic evening.
Yes.
He showered me in champagne. He ran a bath for me and bathed me, and it was a glorious evening. And the next day, in the morning, he poured champagne over both of us. And I think the next day, next day I had a single white rose delivered to him at work.
Wow.
In a nice gold box.
Wow. And how long did that relationship last?
Shortly after that, I went off to basic training, and it broke off.
She was in the military.
Yes.
And what branch was that?
Army.
The Army. Boy, that makes a girl hard of nails.
Well, I grew up in an all-female, intellectual, very feminist academic environment.
Mm-hmm.
And part of my teenage rebellion was go the opposite. Mm-hmm. Okay, liberal, feminist, academic, intellectual, rarefied kind of environment. What's a girl to do to rebel? I mean, form a band. My mom would have been like, I think a blue mohawk would be better than a green one.
We also attended a university that is very progressive.
Oh, yeah.
And very liberal.
Yeah.
Which is?
UC Berkeley.
Yeah. I mean, that is the.
Although in the mid '80s,
Mm-hmm.
it was a bastion of MBA engineers seeking conservatism,
Mm-hmm.
with the exception of the South African protests. Tended to be more conservative than, left the middle, but not quite all the way left as it was in Once Upon a Time.
A lot of liberals have come out of Berkeley. A lot of them have. But this is fascinating. We're getting to intimate detail, and I'm so fascinated by the stories that I'm not going to be interrupting her. We're just going to talk. We're going to have a great time, and what we're going to do is we're going to get right back. What we're going to do is we got to go to our commercials. So we'll be right back with my wonderful guest, Midori, and we're going to find a little bit more about her sexual things that she's done in her life, and we're going to find out about what she's doing today and what she wants to do 5 years from now. So you've been watching the Rev Mel here at TSRnetwork.com, where real people talk about real sex with real kinky people. So we'll be right back.